It's a new week, a new show, and we've got new news. First off, we've got a major announcement about video game Tango and how it's changing. Then it's Nick's thoughts on Apex Legends Mobile, followed by the gaming industry raking in an unexpected $200 billion in 2022. Josh has news on Rockstar and Take-Two's plans for remakes, remasters, and new favorites, as well as a Master Chief Collection-style reimagining of the Gears of War franchise, and lots more.
This is Nick, and video game devs, stop trying to make Superman happen. Superman's not going to happen.
This is the non-fungible proprietary re-release of Josh Paulson. Nice to see you.
That was a little messy, but we're going to go with it.
Was
My name is
messy.
Andy. Welcome to Video Game Tango. Look at this. What is this? What is that? We have an announcement to make.
You're pregnant?
We're back.
Yeah, that's true. We are back. I am pregnant and
With emotion?
with a baby.
Oh.
We're the baby is coming soon, like in about an hour.
Yeah.
In real time.
Oh, my.
For everybody else, it's going to be coming probably Monday morning.
It's a time baby.
So the way we've been doing the podcast, anybody that's been watching and listening knows that during the live stream, the first chunk of the podcast is just kind of free balling, free riffing and stuff, talking with each other, getting people, it's smooth jazz, getting people into the chat. About an hour into that, we usually start the podcast proper. We take a break after about 45 minutes. We come back, and then we do another section, 45 minutes or so, of the Video Game Tango podcast. And then we have a little bit of a, we talk with chat for a little while afterward, just vibing.
Sesh.
Yeah, exactly. We're changing things up a little bit. We're also changing the way we upload both the audio podcast and the video podcast.
Carrier pigeons now.
So
Yes.
some of you might be familiar, if you've been following us for a long time, with the Balcony Time podcast. That's actually how we started. And it was just four of us shooting the shit into microphones with very loose topics at hand and kind of doing what we want. It seems, just based on the reactions that we've gotten, stuff is more of our freeform stuff. It's kind of what people really gather here for. There's still some people that want the video game news. There's still people that like listening to what we have to say. And I think this is getting the best of both worlds. So what we're trying to do here is we're gonna separate the podcast in both audio and video forms to a bi-weekly release. So we're gonna go live with the podcast every day at around 8 on Twitch, doing our whole live shebang. Then we're gonna be releasing on Friday mornings the Video Game Tango podcast.
Every Wednesday.
What did I say?
You said every day.
I mean, I'm down.
No. Every Wednesday.
Okay.
Every Wednesday, we're going to be doing the live stream. On Fridays, we'll get the audio podcast of Video Game Tango and the video podcast of Video Game Tango. And then Mondays, we'll be getting the Balcony Time podcast in both its audio and video forms. So we're hoping that release schedule is going to do a few things. Hopefully, it just means that
That's an extra treat.
well, it kind of. You're getting less video game news, but you're getting more podcast.
Getting something important to do on Monday.
Exactly.
Who does anything fun Monday, right?
Right.
Almost
So
never.
hopefully your morning commute on Friday and Monday can be just sprinkled in with us.
We will bless your earballs.
That's true. So that's the announcement. That's the big thing. We're changing up the format. We're changing up the formula. We're going to be bringing back Balcony Time podcast style podcasting. Let us know how you like it.
So how are you naming the baby? Is it Carl's Jr.? Is it Subway?
Balcony Time podcast. Yeah, it's coming on
BTP
Monday.
Jr.? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So we'll
Big
have Video Game Tango, and then we'll have Balcony Time podcast brought to you by Video Game Tango. You don't have to do anything weird. Just subscribe to the regular channel. Just subscribe to your favorite podcasts.
You're just going to get... I mean, really, it's the same. It's just spread out, so you get to enjoy us more.
Yeah.
Like
And
too much bread over too
honestly,
little butter.
that's probably for... No, that's the same amount of bread. Same amount of butter.
Same amount of bread.
Same amount of butter.
I for one, am going to give you more butter.
Well,
If you want more butter, let us know. We have all our social media accounts. Just tell us how much butter you want.
it's always more butter.
I don't know if margarine's allowed.
Margarine's allowed if you so choose.
I mean, if you eat your Balcony Time podcast raw, fine. Try not to cook Balcony Time podcast with margarine unless you're over 4,000 feet in elevation.
No, it's going to react poorly to that.
Yeah.
So we do have the Video Game Tango podcast that we're starting now.
Yeah, actual video game news.
Nick's got some video game news for
Do you
us.
have news?
I've got a decent amount. We've gone 2 weeks now.
I mean, that's true. We are back.
I caught a Plague Junior, Weenie Hut Junior level of cold. Just kind of
You had to face it alone.
Sierra, her mouth got attacked by space aliens. They set up shop underneath her tooth.
You know, honestly, if she hadn't sent me the picture, I wouldn't have believed her.
Yeah. She looked,
Famous
hypochondriac. She would have fit into Ed, Ed and Eddie perfectly. That
Oh, God.
jawbreaker.
Oh, my God. Oh, my
That's so
God.
true, dude.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah, honestly, dude, there's nothing quite like tooth pain to remind you.
I mean,
that your
between
life
her
is
being completely catatonic and me being sick and also, dealing with life and kids and whatnot, we were dead of the world for a week. But now we're back. I have been attempting to curate a fine selection of rich Corinthian video game news. The one big thing I want to talk about, we get with now, might take a little while. But we had recently touched on Apex Legends Mobile, and I ranted about it a little bit. It came out yesterday or the day before.
The 17th, yesterday.
And I would have immediately downloaded to play it had I not already been engrossed in another hero arena shooter that I stumbled across. So in my ever-increasing... Oh, my beard is stuck to the microphone. In my ever-increasing hunt for decent mobile games, because that's the only platform I really have right now, I came across a Play Store called TapTap, essentially a competitor to Google Play. It is, I believe, partially owned by Tencent, like everything is nowadays.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I looked into it. It's legitimate, and I checked it out. And they had a exclusive game called T3 Arena, which I have taken to calling Phone Overwatch because it is the closest game to Overwatch I have played. That said, it was developed for mobile in mind. It is coming out full worldwide release on, I believe, the 26th, and it is fantastic. There are no ads. There is no in-your-face monetization. The games are quick. There is no bullshit. Having been made specifically as like a mobile shooter, it just works. And I've been playing it for about a week and 2 days now. Good enough that after day number 3, I bought the battle pass.
Damn.
Found out I didn't even need to. All but one hero, as far as I can tell, out of like 16, 17 that are available, you just get for playing. Half of them you get from achievements. The other half you just get in your like account pass. Like as you play games, you get points and you get a point value, you get a new character. There are some minor issues with it. I mean, like there are with any game. And it could be argued it's a little bare bones, but I've got my niece playing it. I'm trying to get Sierra playing it. My niece and I are going in and just fucking raffle stomping people. She's getting surprisingly good at shooters. And because of its limited kind of
Young reflexes,
minimal control scheme, I actually feel like I can do cool, fast response things in that game. I can jump over somebody and turn around and still be able to hit them. Which traditionally, trying to play a phone game, anything fast-paced, it's difficult because you got 2 thumbs, right?
Yeah.
There are ways to play where you use your index fingers over the top part of your phone, and I tried that out a little bit. It kind of works. I have a slightly larger phone, so it's a bit awkward, but it's doable. That said, I've had about a week of that. I'm absolutely in love, and now I have Apex to play and compare it to. I managed to get in 3 games, I think, today before the podcast. It is a valiant attempt at trying to port over the game that is Apex Legends to the mobile platform.
No.
I do not want to trash it because I don't think it's bad. What do you
I was going to say, I
interject?
heard that they had a couple of little extras on the Apex Mobile that aren't going to be coming to console or PC. They have an entirely new character.
Yeah, and I was going to get into that a little bit. So upon opening the game, you got a cutscene, you got a tutorial. They're a bit janky, but it's fine. Most notably, think about Apex and all of the HUD user interface elements and all the controls you have. They're all there. And you got two thumbs.
Yeah.
To give you an example, if you go out into the layout, like custom edit layout mode, you can select between 3-finger and 4-finger default setups. So they're assuming off the bat that you're playing with both thumbs and 1 or 2 of your index fingers while you're like claw holding the phone with your middle finger. I took a bit of an egregious screenshot of each game from the edit layout mode. Not all of these buttons, sorry, audio listeners are not going to see, not all these buttons are on the screen at any one time, but know that 70, 80% of those buttons in the top for Apex, those are on your screen at all time.
Oh, wow.
The bottom is T3 Arena. Half those buttons are not on your screen at all times. In T3 Arena, you have jump, you have you don't even have shoot unless you want it, and you have your regular ability and your ultimate, right? So on the top, we've got 3 different fire buttons. You've got a crouch, a sprint, a jump, an ADS, change optics, your regular ability, your ultimate ability. And that's just on the bottom right corner of the screen, right? You know, it's a mess. And it's kind of necessary. At the end of the day, you're pretty much playing full-blown Apex. And they didn't cut corners and remove things like sprinting and sliding and jumping. So you have to be able to do those. They just unfortunately decided to give a button for every single one of them. That said, if you go deep into the customization of the controls, there's a lot of options to set to make some of the stuff automatic. Okay. But like you have to go fiddle with it and then go into training grounds and try it out. And it's not easy. That said, playing the game, there's the option to shoot automatically or not if you don't want that. I guess if you're playing with 4 fingers, you can have like shoot as your left index finger. But if you don't have that set up and you're not trying to do that, that means you will not be able to aim or move while you're also trying to shoot. So think about doing that in Apex, right? It's not easy.
That sounds awful.
It just came out. On top of that, you get bombarded with a handful of like purchasing freemium stuff every time you open the game. There's 40,000 different menus on the main screen for all the different season events and unlocks and things. And it's a very standard status quo mobile shooter game as far as the user experience goes. The gameplay is fun. One big problem with it, I noticed that I don't think I would have noticed had I not been playing T3 Arena. You still have recoil on guns. It's really hard to control recoil with your thumb. Yeah. Especially when you're trying to move and jump and sprint at the same time. No recoil in T3 Arena for anybody because it's not required, right? There's enough difficulty already. I don't think Apex Mobile is going to be a bad game. And I think, like we talked about a little bit, it's going to let some people play Apex that couldn't otherwise play it because they don't have a console or PC or whatever. If you do and you enjoy being competitive, I highly recommend you look into getting some kind of controller and not attempting to play it with normal touch controls. Apex is not a game designed to be played with 2 thumbs alone. So where I'm standing now, I recommend T3 Arena over Apex for most people. It's going to, I said, again, going global the 26th. I don't know if it's coming to Google Play. I think it's coming to iOS. And it's not identical to Overwatch. It's got a little bit of Valorant in there. And it is definitely its own thing, but it's fun. And I really enjoy it. And I've been excited to play it every day for over a week now. And that's pretty rare for me for any game. Yeah. On top of that, TapTap, the Play Store that you get T3 Arena through, of all things, has exclusive Torchlight Infinite, the next game in the Torchlight series, which was a offshoot of some of the developers from the original Diablo 2 game. And it's just so bizarre. It's so bizarre to see where Torchlight came from and where it's going. We went from the first Torchlight, which was this great single-player Diablo clone that felt really nice, to Torchlight 2, which was kind of a letdown. People really wanted multiplayer, didn't have it, and it got a little bit shitty. And now we've got this, Chinese developer-made, poorly translated, weird Path of Exile clone that looks great. It is fun until you run out of story after the first 5 hours of play, and then you're just grinding dungeons. But like of all the things to make a sequel out of and make it a mobile game,
Yeah.
I was not expecting Torchlight to be there.
Well, I mean, trying to modernize,
Yeah.
keep it going on a fresh thing,
Hopefully.
I guess.
I got to look more into Tap, make sure there's no, I didn't see any allegations of any spyware, fucked up stuff. If anybody knows anything, let us know. But as far as I know, it's just a tertiary Play Store.
Now, do you get Tap through an APK, or is it available through the Play Store?
You Google Tap, the first main positive link is the one. Of course, your phone's going to not recognize it as a trusted app. It tells you this is an untrusted thing.
So you have to activate developer mode and all that stuff.
Well, when you go to install it, it'll say, do you want to install this? And you have a one-time slider. You click yes. But it's taptap.io. Downloads the client, and then you'll need to give it permission to install games. But unlike the Google Play Store, the Tap Game Store is almost more like a Reddit feed. You choose the genres of games you like and the games that you're playing or you want to play, and you get player posts, news feeds, tournament updates about that game in like a main feed. And then, of course, you can browse for games and the like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems pretty legit.
But yeah, just having access to a new Play Store that has games that you're never going to see on Google Play, especially ones that are
pretty cool.
legitimate.
That's pretty
is
cool.
Pretty neat.
Now, did you get into the Final Fantasy VII First Soldier beta?
No, I haven't played any of the new FF7 stuff.
Okay. It's a mobile game, and it is a third-person shooter. On-screen controls. I've got
I'll look for it.
I've got a screenshot up there. I got to play it during its first weekend. Pretty good. I mean, so I have far less experience playing mobile shooters than you do. So I wasn't great at it. I've tried a little bit of mobile PUBG, and then I tried this.
Seems like a nightmare to me.
FF7 First Soldier. It's not ultimately. It's not. I don't like it either. I don't think it caters very well to first-person shooters. That said, I was able to Bluetooth an Xbox controller and play the game and rock everybody's shit for like a good couple
and
hours.
some of these
that's
games
pretty
you
dope.
can install emulators like BlueStacks and
Yeah.
whatnot. I don't know if you'll have access to like multiplayer match servers for things like T3 Arena. There might be ways to get around that, but at that point you're kind of cheating the system.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend that.
And there's always issues with BlueStacks too. The emulation isn't always perfect.
Yeah,
It can be a little bit janky. So while it does mean that you can play it on PC, a lot of the times the like button mapping won't work properly, or there's plenty of stuff that doesn't work super well with BlueStacks. But if you really want to rock people's shit, you can definitely do mouse and keyboard with BlueStacks, or you plug in an OTG or an on-the-go adapter to your phone and plug in mouse and keyboard. You can do that too.
Yeah, I'm looking into more. I'm trying to do some reviews on wired gaming controllers because you can get Bluetooth controllers. It's fine, but that's another layer of delay in between you and the game.
Yeah,
and
I mean it's as much as you'd be getting on console though, so it gives you kind of this console experience as well. Yeah. They're using Bluetooth technology or 2.4 gigahertz as well. So
one other thing in T3's favor, T3 is like a gig and a quarter. A fresh download of Apex was almost 5. Not a lot of people have 5 gigabytes on their phone for a video game.
Apex is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the PC version of it is like 75 gigs. It's something ludicrous.
It is its own game.
Yeah,
like
right.
It's as far as I understand it, and again, I should have clarified or like looked in this. I'm almost positive you're not playing with PC players. It's its own thing. But other than that, it's the full Apex experience. It looked like you could unlock most of the characters without having to pay money.
Yeah.
You could get Wraith early if you paid any amount of money, but here's the thing. For linking it to my Apex account, I got a Wraith skin and some season currency.
Okay.
So not nearly, that doesn't mean, so all the skins you have
Season currency for
the mobile game specifically.
Okay.
So all the skins and characters and shit you've unlocked on the console, you're not getting any of that on the phone.
Yeah.
You're getting a little gimme,
because it's its own thing.
It's its own thing.
It's its own thing. Which
I mean, I get whatever.
For a free to play game, I don't like it, but it also doesn't fucking
Yeah. The other
my
weird
chops too
thing,
much.
again, because not developed for mobile originally, it's their full Apex matches. I had one go for 20, almost 30 minutes.
Damn.
And, that's like if everyone's playing slow, that's a long time to be playing a mobile game.
It is.
I can go out for a break and like get sometimes 2 T3 matches done in 5 minutes if they're quick games. So, maybe great if you're taking a bus to work or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're
or if you're traveling, like
if you're traveling, if you've got good internet access, because it is a first-person shooter, you're going to want to have good ping.
Yeah.
The last thing that I just remembered out of the blue, when I turned on auto fire, so hover your cursor, your reticle over a target to shoot, sometimes it just didn't. It just showed a red X, and I could not figure out why. Weird. So it just released. I'm sure they're going to be ironing out bugs and whatnot, and we'll see how it does, but not the greatest impression.
Did it play pretty fluidly?
Yeah, I mean, I won my first 3 games.
There you go.
But again, a lot of probably new people playing, like the, what do they call the person who won the last match? The
champion.
The champion of last match was like a guy had like 12 kills, and I got 10 kills that match. And
nice.
Just, it's not hard if you know how to play a shooter game. But I also have no idea how many bots are in the game. Having just started, I haven't learned bot behavior yet, if there are any, how many there are. Could be the first couple of games are bots, which I wouldn't be surprised. It's very common in mobile games.
Honestly, if we're getting like quality shooters on mobile, it might be a good time to get like one of those wraparound, handheld controllers for mobile.
They kind of plug
like
into the phone.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about getting one of those recently. There's one's made by Razer. It's like $45. Not too bad for for the cost of a controller. And then when it's not in use, it's really tiny and portable. So that legitimately does give me like hope for travel.
Because at that point, you're kind of essentially playing a Switch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not much. I mean, it's not much behind it.
If I didn't want to lug it's not a huge thing. It's not a huge deal to lug the Switch around. But like, if I didn't want another thing to have to charge at the end of the night,
have a case and all the games.
Right, exactly. Then it's really handy to just throw a controller in a bag, bring your phone, which you were already intending on bringing, connect to hotel Wi-Fi, and play a few games of Apex. That sounds pretty good.
The thing that's been kind of keeping me back from pulling the trigger on some kind of gaming peripheral for the phone is you don't know which games are going to have game peripheral support.
Yeah.
Okay.
If, a lot of games, especially ones that aren't brand new, they're going to assume you have touch controls and touch controls only.
Yeah.
There might be really janky ways to get around that with screen mapping of, button presses. I don't know how in depth game peripheries are now about that, but I imagine Apex should, if they don't have built-in support for peripheral phone controllers, then they're doing something wrong.
A lot of these also have apps where you can designate an area of the phone.
Yeah, that's what I meant by like screen mapping. If you can say, okay, here's where my button is, so when I press this physical button, like pretend I'm touching that part of the screen.
So even if there isn't support in the game, a lot of them have ways to circumvent that at least.
Good fucking luck spending the 3 hours to map that
to configure
Apex
that shit.
screen,
right, for sure. Yeah, no, that seems like a lot of
fully
preparation.
Customizable,
worth it for the victory, tell me. Worth it for the victory.
That's right. You got to get them dubs. Yeah. I think it's cool. Mobile gaming, if it can mature into something that's more than just what we have now, which is most games are just free.
We're in the worst timeline for mobile games. Like if literally everybody has a tiny Game Boy in their pocket, and everybody could have been fucking developing amazing games that everyone can play, but no, it's just a cash grab. And it just drives me insane. So to see something like T3, go ahead.
There are good, cheap, or free emulators on the Play Store.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them. My boy for the GBA. I've got a DS. It's $5 for a DS emulator.
Some of them have networks which you can fetch ROMs from, built into the app. And they're really good. We're not advocating, obviously, theft of games. But if you own the game already, get some ROMs, man. Being able to just play some SNES games on your phone, it's fucking awesome.
Being able to save state old games where you could save at any time and reload whenever you want.
100%.
Oh, makes games so much easier.
We never advocate the theft of an old game.
Church.
So that was my big thing. I've got a handful of other little articles to talk about. But
I've got some stuff too. So a couple things that I wanted to talk about. We'll start off with the gaming industry is expected to cross the $200 billion sales mark this year.
Ooh, damn.
$200,000 million.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
That's why I said 200 billion.
200 billion.
Yeah. So that's a 6.6 year over year growth. Or at least every 2 years is essentially how they're measuring
6%.
this.
6%.
6.6%. It's pretty wild. In 2020, it was, let me see here. I just lost it in my brain. In 2020, it was $192.7 billion. Oh, no, sorry, that's 2021. So if we're looking at year over year, 6% sales growth, we're getting into the over $200 billion.
Yeah, it's another $12 billion.
Yeah. The thing that I find most interesting about it is they have a pretty good breakdown here. I'm checking this article from ayedot.com. And it shows the 2021 global games market, and it has a breakdown of the sales per region and the game market segmentation based on platform, whether it be PC, console, tablet, or they even include browser games. So I just find, especially the breakdown, interesting. Like Europe was $31.5 billion of last year's sales in games, making
throw it up on the screen.
18%. I sure can. North America was 24%. I honestly thought we'd see a larger percentage of the pie than just 24% from North America.
Not with Southeast Asia, man.
Yeah, the Asia Pacific, $88.2 billion, roughly 50% of all game sales happened in the Asia Pacific market. Now, obviously, that's a huge market, right? We're including
that's a giant market.
There's a few countries mixed up in there still. Being 50% of the overall sales for video games last year, and just
it's including Australia too. That's a lot of fucking countries. That's a lot of countries.
It is a lot of countries.
That's less impressive seeming. Honestly, North America is more impressive than that.
You have to consider that especially the Chinese market is playing a lot of free to play games. So the purchases made in those are just the freemium stuff, right? So they're getting DLC, texture packs, whatever from their mobile purchases. A lot of them are mobile, which we'll get into in a second. But it's interesting to see. You would think that, especially with the massive growth that we've been seeing over the last few years, it's showing trends of between 6 and 14% year over year sales growth since these metrics started coming out. Let's take a look at the segmentation per the device, though. Browser PC games, I'm actually surprised. It's 1%.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I kind of didn't expect it to be visible on the chart. Is my only mention here.
Yeah.
But browser PC games was $2.6 billion. That is a decrease of 18% year over year. So it seems like they're obviously losing popularity, right? Downloaded or boxed PC games, 19% at $33.3 billion. That's minus 1.4% year over year. I imagine that we won't be seeing a decrease, that we might be seeing an increase in that. This is the first year that they saw a decrease in sales since like the 90s for PC titles. Okay. I imagine a lot of that has to do with the lack of availability of parts, especially graphics cards more recently.
Still beating the consoles, though, dude.
A lot of it's probably the plurality of smartphones.
Well, they're not beating the consoles. So that's $33.3 billion in PC games versus the 49.2. In growth, they are winning, yes.
Yes, in growth, they're winning. Like, I'm just saying, like, a 1.4% year-over-year loss is, while not what you would call sustainable because it's a loss, 8.9%?
Yeah.
Because this is from 2021.
Yeah.
So by judging by that market, they're going to lose 8% of that. So that's going to move them it's moving them ever closer to the PC gains. I'm just saying I
don't expect we'll see losses of this size for the console market. So we just talked about the shortage of supply of PC parts.
Yeah.
We also have to discuss the shortage of new consoles.
That's true.
COVID, of course.
Was a big thing.
People pinching some pennies here and there. So we had a serious shortage of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, especially in late 2020, which was their launch period.
Yeah.
And then all of 2021, we saw no consoles. They're really just now trickling into stores. You can just kind of now see them, one or two available at your Best Buys, your Walmarts, your Krogers, and Fred Meyers, and every now and then they peak there, or they pop up. I imagine a lot of people have been waiting to be spending money on new games until the new consoles come out. I know I would, personally. If there was a game that I was looking forward to, but I was also looking forward to playing it on the new console, I might just wait to buy a game for after I had to purchase a new console. So I think you can attribute some of it to that. There's obviously COVID. And then there's also, there are some other factors as well. Like, let's take a look at last year's releases. How many enormous... I mean, it was kind of a dry year, right? Especially at the height of a console launch, right? This year... I
remember off the top of my head of what released on consoles last year.
This year... I mean, last year, the biggest games release was Cyberpunk. So this year, the biggest games release we've really seen is Elden Ring. We've seen a few. They've been sprinkled in.
I mean, just because I feel like there's a few big releases. Elden Ring is just
It's a juggernaut.
It's a juggernaut and a masterpiece and is fucking overwhelming. So, but I mean...
We have the New Horizon.
Yeah. I guess Deathloop was last year.
Deathloop was last year, but that was still a big release.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, there were a few...
but they're really just kind of sprinkled through. We've had Call of Duty.
Star Wars.
Sure. I mean, that is actually a big release.
So, yeah, Elden Ring, yes, overshadows them, but
we didn't have 2 new Call of Duties this year. We didn't have an Assassin's Creed. These big AAA titles that we're kind of expecting, year after year, they've been slowing down their production cycle. We talked last week about Starfield, right? Or the week before, rather.
Yeah.
And they just announced that they're holding off until the beginning of next year. So it's been pushed back.
Dude, I'm fine with that. They should put...
But so along with that, there was also Redfall that is being pushed back, and that's a pretty anticipated title. But it's even got Phil Spencer apologizing for the lack of releases for the Xbox this year. Can you think of a major release coming to the Xbox this year?
Yes, I can. Well, it's not a release, but it's... No, I'll talk about it in a second.
Okay,
no.
Sure, yeah. Sure. But yeah, major game releases are kind of slowing down. And a lot of it can be attributed to COVID. The production cycles really took a turn for the worse during COVID. You can see a decreased console sales because of availability. So there's a lot of factors at play here as to why you might see console games down year over year. I don't think that's going to be a trend. I think we're probably going to be coming up out of that as the year continues and we go into next year.
Yeah, and again, audio listeners only, you can't see this, but tablet games and smartphone games. Is there a real big difference between those? Shouldn't that be
Not
one?
really.
Some games are only available on the tablet. It's very few, but as far as iOS goes, there are iPad specific titles versus iPhone titles. Now most of the iPhone titles are available on iPad, but some of the titles are only available on iPad as well.
Because I feel like that should really be one
at the end of the
segment,
day,
You're
just looking at it, roughly...
You're looking at the sales, though.
Roughly 8% of
Fair enough.
that is going to be tablet specific. But yeah, together 52% of the sales are tablet and phone games.
Yeah.
Phone games are up 5%, tablets up 2%, looks like. That's not surprising at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at all. But 45% of all of 2021's game sales came from smartphones.
Yeah, everybody's stuck inside during COVID playing their Farmville 4 Redux.
True.
Farmville plus
buying
max.
them premium potatoes.
Dude. Well, I mean, if you're gonna get a potato, you get the good ones, right?
Yep.
Josh, sounds like you had something on your mind.
Yeah. I mean, I did. We're kind of coming in. We're talking about sales, whatnot. So, sale. Take-Two has with all this stuff here. Take-Two has announced recently that they have like 35 games in the pipeline. So there's going to be over 24 immersive core titles. Titles that have deep
Immersive core?
Immersive
This
core.
is how
Isn't that the new metal
So
genre?
they have a breakdown. They have a breakdown of a bunch of these
every
games
good
here.
metal song has
very much so. This is Take-Two's breakdown.
Take
of
Two's
the
going to
games.
tell us how we're going to play video games from now on, guys.
So is this random
they're
bullshit
ready.
go? 35 games, some of them will stick.
So immersive core, they plan on doing 24.
24 of the games,
Some
yes.
titles announced to date are The Quarry, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Kerbal Space Program 2, NBA 2K3, PGA Tour 2K3, WWE 2K3, all launching in
NBA
2023.
2K, yeah. Also, with that comes ports of the apparent, we were talking about it earlier. Since the Xbox 360 GTA 5 will be ported to the new Series to the new Series X, of course, and PlayStation 5. But also, they will be getting Red Dead 2. Now, this is going to be a port, but you can expect better load times and maybe better looking graphics just based on the hardware increases.
Maybe a frame rate that isn't capped at 30.
Yeah, exactly. A frame rate that's not capped at 30. So you might see some good
How's
stuff
that
there.
third, Josh?
They're all coming out. I don't know. They're running around back there. Multiverse Joshes.
Okay. No, I meant in reference to your experience with the remasters of.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Rockstar games.
those are the immersive cores. So those are going to be ports actually. So they're not actually fucking with the game.
The
Red Dead 2.
immersive core is not ports. Immersive core is going to be new titles.
Oh, is it going to just be new titles? They mentioned Red Dead specifically.
So,
down in here.
let me give you the breakdown real quick. So immersive core is 24 games that are all supposed to be new. Now, a lot of them are iterative. We talked about that being NBA 2K, 2K3, PGA Tour 2K, 2K3. So they're new titles in their currently existing franchises. There's also independent games, which they're going to be releasing 10 of. Mobile games, which they plan on releasing 20 of. Mid-core, which is an interesting. The only example they give from that is new Tales from the Borderlands game.
Oh, they also
fiscal
gave
year
a
2023.
WWE game, like a wrestling game.
Yeah, that's immersive core.
Oh, okay.
Mid-core, 7 games, and then new iterations of previously released titles. That is going to be your ports. That's going to be your remasters and remakes. They plan on launching 8.
Yes.
But sports
The
games
most
don't
talked about of which right now I feel like is Red Dead Redemption. Not 2, but the first one. It gets confusing. With Red Dead Online slowly dying due to neglect, like a child drowning in a pool.
Yep.
And I mean, Red Dead 3 is probably not going to come out until we're old and gray because Rockstar is working on GTA 6, and that's going to be their cash cow for the next decade. So they're working on that. I feel like Red Dead Redemption is a surefire remaster, which it both excites me and makes me very nervous because I still haven't played. Oh my God, I am all over the place in the video. I still haven't played any of the definitive turds that GTA the GTA releases were.
What was the one that you did buy? The remaster of San Andreas?
No, I bought the definitive collection, which was all 3 of them for $60, and it was $55 too much.
Okay.
I played them like download night, right? Like when they first came out, I played them. I experienced a lot of the glitches, and then they took them away from me for a while. And then I haven't. They were like, "Oh, hey, you have these back. They're playable. It's going to be great." And I said, "No, thank you," and I haven't played them since. So,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm both nervous, but I'm excited. But with these remasters, it gets me thinking on what else Take-Two could release, because it's not just Rockstar titles. I mean, sure, we could get a GTA 4 remaster, whatever. But like the game Bully, that would be kind of a cool remaster to have. I had a little bit of fun with that back on the PlayStation 2 days. But also Borderlands. I feel like the first Borderlands could use an update. That could be a fun replay through, because right now, comparatively with the third game, it's boring as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, having only played, I think, the first two Borderlands, and the second one was just kind of all around better than the first one. Why remaster the first one? I mean, it started the formula off, and there were the bones, but like they've added so much flesh to that sculpture that, like, I guess maybe you want to take the gameplay and mechanics from Borderlands 2 or 3 or Tiny Tina or whatever, and then just use the story from one. I could see that.
Yeah, just updated graphics and more guns. But you use the story, same bosses. Yeah.
Again, Borderlands 1 was great the first time you played it because it was new, but you go back and play it, like, that game is slow. Mm-hmm. It is slow, and it is barren. It's a sparse world.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, if they do remaster Red Dead Redemption, I hope it's not another definitive edition fucking.
Those were so bad.
If it does, then
the rumor has it that the port for Red Dead 2 to the new Series X and the remaster are going to drop on the same day. So you could pick them up as a collection.
Which, honestly, if you're going to package a game, so me personally, I didn't buy Red Dead. I played that on the Xbox 360 because one of us owned a copy. Red Dead 2, I haven't played it yet because
haven't played it yet.
Whatever. I haven't played it yet. Whatever. Yeah. To get both and one of them be a remaster for current consoles, I might that appeases me, right?
Right.
Yeah, if you haven't played them.
Right. So there's an audience for it. May not necessarily be you, but I, for one, that would get me into. If I could get that for $60, $70, sure.
Right. I mean, honestly, dude, if the zombie one is in there, I'm in again, bro. I will buy that game a third fucking time.
Word. So on the coattails of that, because we're talking about remasters, it looks like Gearbox might be doing, or not Gearbox, the developers for Gears of War.
I read about this too.
Might be doing a Halo, not anniversary, Master Collection,
a Master Chief Collection style of
remake
games,
and remaster.
The Gears of War people are making a Halo remaster.
No, they're making for Gears of War.
So like
in the style of the Master Chief Collection. So they've been redoing all of the Halos.
So they're making a Gears of War remaster,
effectively.
Okay, you said a Halo remaster. I was just confused.
In the style. So the Master Chief Collection, they started off with 2. They did an Xbox One remaster of Halo 2. Yeah. They've since gone back and done Halo 1, Halo 3, and they've been remastering and redoing, even to the point where they're like making new cutscenes for the older Halo games for modern consoles and PC. It looks like they might be doing kind of a similar thing with Gears of War.
It's a good time for it. They're only getting older, those games.
Yeah, and while those games had mind-blowing graphics at the time, they do feel a little dated for sure. I wouldn't mind seeing.
Years old.
Yeah, I mean they are a little bit long in the tooth. But I wouldn't mind seeing a graphic refresh of the old Gears of War games. That'd be cool. The thing that kind of put me off a little bit is in the article that I was reading, they're talking about changing some of the mechanics of the first game into some of the more modern, like what started with Gears of War 2. So a little bit tighter combat feeling, faster rodeo running, that kind of thing. Some real actual quality of life improvements they made from the first game into stuff that I appreciated at the time and still kind of do to this day. I wouldn't mind actually having kind of the more original experience of the first game. I think that set it apart from the rest of the series titles. I don't think it was any worse because it was still a good Gears of War game. It was just different, right?
I mean, it was the Gears of War game.
I don't know. It's people touching my game. You know what I mean? And changing it in ways that I don't know that I will appreciate. That's like a little tiny qualm I have with it. That said, I'll probably be buying it again. Honestly, rebuying more Gears of War games that I've bought like 3 times.
I'm kind of excited about that. Like, I haven't played a Gears of War game since I think Gears 2. So if I could get like 1, 2, and 3 and sit down and play them all like in a row on a like that for $60-$70, I'm in. I'd be in for that.
All I'm going to say is if you make it for us to all play those games multiplayer, you can make a lot more money.
Dude, if they make
it's
them...
one thing if Andy picks it up because he's a huge Gears of War fan. It's another if he's like, hey, drop $30 and we can play Gears 1, 2, and 3 together online without issue. We're all going to do that.
Or
right?
if they have fucking couch co-op, I'll play that any day because they did.
Yeah.
You know.
So keep that in mind, all those studio execs listening to our podcast.
So what a time to be alive and playing video games.
When you can play games with your friends.
Yeah.
Colin and I have played every Gears of War title except for 5 now on multiple difficulties and beat it on the hardest difficulties, including beating Horde mode in Gears of War 2 on the hardest difficulty setting. Yeah. It's just our thing. Like, we get together and play the new Gears of War game in its entirety at least 3 times, typically.
I tried to have a thing with Colin, and then he fucking shunted us off Rainbow Road during the last race of the last circuit of the last CC of Mario Kart. And
sounds like Colin.
We're that close to first placing every track on every difficulty.
Colin and I could have had a thing, but I stole some boots.
He punched you in the face,
and then we ruined Christmas. So,
let's talk about that when we go to the new podcast later. Yeah. In the meantime, Nick, you've got at least one more thing to talk about news-wise.
I mean, I've got about a dozen, so I will try to keep them a little bit short here. So in this weekly section of Nick is Confounded, Gravity, who I believe is the owners of Ragnarok Online. Now, that's a name I haven't heard since Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Is cracking down on private servers for Ragnarok Online. I didn't even know Ragnarok Online was still kind of a thing. Of course, I was sure there's some people still playing this game. It was a kind of a Japanese World of Warcraft that came out by the time we were, middle school, high school? Early 2000s?
Somewhere in there.
So reading it a bit about it, Ragnarok Online, the official servers are, no joke, legitimately 80, 90, 99% bots. They're all there just farming materials to sell, to try to make gold, to sell to players, and the official servers are, for all intents and purposes, you can't play on them. So for literally the last 2 decades, multiple private servers of Ragnarok Online, some of which emulating the main current game, some of it the pre-renewal, which is kind of like WoW pre-Cataclysm before a big change, have just been running for years, privately, quietly, and for almost 2 decades, the owner parent studio has just let them have it. And out of the blue, they've decided they're cracking down on these private servers. And also, the vast majority of the content creators for Ragnarok Online, Twitch streamers and YouTubers, they play on private servers because you have to. They're telling them they can't do that anymore. So all these streamers and YouTubers are just stopping playing Ragnarok Online.
It's interesting because Twitch already has in their TOS that you can't play unofficial servers from games if it goes against the game's terms of service.
Yeah, which I'm not sure exactly what their TOS is, other than this game came out over 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we played that in our teens.
Yeah, and like, there's people still with a loving community playing this game, keeping it going. Yeah. And of all the things to do to just like shit on your small audience that's barely hanging on, I don't know what they have planned, if they're coming out with like Ragnarok 2, like fucking 10 years too late, guys. But it just baffled me that the company would do that. Like, why even? I'm willing to bet links?
It has 99% to do with the fact that they are looking at IP law. IP law stating that if somebody else gets a hold of your IP and manages your IP and does it for long enough, that property is no longer yours.
Yeah, I don't know what IP law is in for the parent studio's country, though.
Sure. I am talking about like what we see in Western culture. The other thing that I think could maybe be it is maybe they've got more work in the pipeline and there's going to be an update to Ragnarok Online, or they plan on making a new game in the franchise.
That's something I think of. The vast majority of people in the Reddit comments back on the Reddit said they think they're just trying to kill the game. Like, because none of these people can think of a reason why they would do this out of all times. Yeah. Right. Of all times to do it, why wait?
Like just an out of a
well over 15 years to like pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Just another baffling thing that some studio exec decided. We'll see if maybe there's going to be Ragnarok 2. and they're wanting to clean up their act or something.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Ragnarok is a South Korean game, and I don't know South Korean IP law, but I'd bet there's a little bit of something in there to be said about like they might be losing hold of their IP potentially. I'm basing this on Western law, but I could see something similar.
Yeah. Another not surprising,
That's a
but
bummer
still
for those
amusing in news. NFT fans lose millions in video game real estate sales. So just to hammer home into that casket, NFTs are a bad idea. Let me read this blurb here real quick. The creator of the most recognizable NFTs available is again in the news for the wrong reasons. Bored Ape Yacht Club creator Yuga Labs recently made its Other Deed collection available for purchase, advertising NFTs as a way to provide users with the ability to obtain land in its upcoming crypto-based MMORPG. Unfortunately, many fans instead walked away with nothing but disappointment, high transaction fees, and over $310 million of loss due to fraud and error in just a few hours.
Oh, damn. They went fast on that one. Fuck.
Yeah. So basically, reading the article and trying to nutshell it here, the sales of these NFTs generated more traffic than expected in this given blockchain. When that happens, there are these fees called gas fees. These charges that get passed on to users to compensate for the computing energy of processing Ethereum transactions. They paid $165 million in combined total in gas fees during this sale, due to the poorly optimized code on Yacht Club's part. Another side, it borked up the whole thing, and at the end of the day, the buyers were out $310 million. So I'm doing my part as a citizen to remind you to not buy NFTs.
Yeah.
Yet another example of regular people getting bilked. Don't do it.
And also remember that most of your NFTs are fully based on Ethereum and the value of Ethereum, which is down 36.03% as of reporting for the month.
That's a lot of percents.
That's a lot of it.
Like 8%'s a lot.
8% is a lot. But
36% is a lot.
That's
a lot.
That's a bit over
That's
a
a lot
third.
plus.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Right.
That's plus max.
Let's take a look at Bitcoin for a second. The valuation of Bitcoin earlier this month, $42,000. Right now, sitting at 29. Oof. Yeah, it's been a bad fucking month for crypto.
Hey, if you're a trust fund
because
kitty,
Elon Musk pulled all his fucking money out of
just to buy Twitter. God damn it!
If you're a trust fund kitty and you've got daddy's dealership money to play around with, and he's not gonna spank you when you lose it, like have fun. But for the rest of us, just don't.
Probably don't invest in crypto and NFTs. Definitely not NFTs.
Yeah. Definitely not NFTs.
Yeah.
I would also like to throw a shout out to Carl Jobst. I think it's Jobst. He's a YouTuber that I know from talking about speedruns, but he's also been doing some really high quality journalism about cheating in speedruns and about the gaming market, video game collection market. And he recently posted a video exposing fraud and deception in the retro video game market, talking about the recent retro video game market bubble and how, for all intents and purposes, it was manufactured on purpose with a buttload of evidence by people who also manufactured a bubble for the coin market in the 80s. And the fact that you've probably seen headlines on Kotaku and Rock Paper Shotgun about, this original clean copy of Super Mario Brothers sold for $1.3 million. Yeah, that's all on purpose.
Yeah.
And this, he does good journalism in that he's not pointing fingers and making stuff up. He's like, here's all the evidence I know of. To me, this shows obvious, at the very least, you can't claim ignorance on the matter. Mm-hmm. But like the people behind this, the Heritage Auction Group and this other video game company that collects retro games, just totally backpocketing it with each other and essentially buying their own games, making news articles about the fact that the game sold for a lot of money and then putting them back up for auction so people think that the wealth is inflated because they're making these fake purchases. We're going to see a collapse probably of the bubble in retro video games really soon.
Let's fucking hope so. Let's really hope so.
Because the people who legitimately collect those games, they're not in there to make money. Yeah. They love old video games.
Yep.
They just want to collect
their
them
old video
and play
games.
them and talk with each other and go to these swap meets. And
one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube is just game collectors talking about their game collections,
Yeah,
their game hauls. Love that shit. There's a channel that I watch on YouTube called Metal Jesus Rocks. That guy's awesome. A terrible channel name, but
Dude, to see
great
a
shows.
Nintendo collector that has been going back since NES, and they just have their entire wall of Nintendo. Like there's a lot of pride in that person when they're showing that off. I've seen it on TikTok.
Did you see the
seen
YouTube
it.
video of the
Saint it.
guy who was trying to track down the gold-plated Wii that was given to the Queen of England and then got lost?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a fantastic video. But yeah.
I've also watched a guy that's trying to track down every special edition GameCube.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Wow. So if you're interested, it's about an hour long. It does not seem like that. The guy's style, Carl Jobst, he's going to hook you, and before you know it, the video's over. KARL space JOBST on YouTube. Highly recommend his content.
I'm going to watch it for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me close all this NFT bullshit. I have a few games that I'm looking forward to checking out, seeing their progress. The first was almost based off the concept alone. All these games I have Steam links for. Axolotl, spelled AK-Solotl.
Yeah.
You are an axolotl with an AK, and it is an Enter the Gungeon Binding of Isaac style game. Having watched a little bit on Reddit on the indie gaming forum, it looks fantastic.
It looks like a lot of fun.
Little roguelike, great cartoony art style. The first boss is a giant enemy crab.
Yep. It's going to break your knife.
It is pretty great.
He will break your knife.
It is wish listable. No release date. The first public post was only a little bit ago. But you can look that up. AK-XOLOTL. Next up, one that I really wanted to show Sierra if she hadn't already seen it. Spirit Tea, one word, is Stardew Valley, but spirited away. You inherit a dilapidated tea house, and there's a bunch of ghosts that you have to appease, and it plays like, Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley. I have these links up, I think, in the Discord if you want to pull them up.
Yeah.
But this is another one that I just came across this very soon. Also coming soon, no release date, but there is a Steam page up for it. I love these types of games, and it's neat to see. Not only we have Haunted Chocolatier, but we've got Spirit Tea, so we've got two very similar games coming out. That'll be nice to have a comparison between the two of them.
So the interesting thing is I just saw a game called Witchbrook, which is described as Stardew Valley meets Harry Potter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are diving heavy into this new subgenre, and I am here to see.
Dude. If the worst thing Stardew Valley did was spawn out a bunch of other Stardew clones,
slice of life.
I'm all about it.
Do it. It's. I don't know if Josh has played one yet, which is why you might be slightly on the fence about these because they look a little boring / cutesy, dude.
They are great.
They're going to steal more of your time than you think if you end up enjoying them.
I already have things that steal too much of my time, so I don't really have more to give.
I'm guilty of Josh's time theft.
That sounds like a you problem.
It is.
Citizen Sleeper. I came across this one from a review from an indie news site. It amounts to it's a tabletop role-playing game set in a cyberpunk setting, but it's a video game. It's a very narrative-driven cyberpunk game where you essentially live on this space station, and part of the gameplay loop is just trying to survive and maintain yourself in this kind of dilapidated, slightly post-apocalyptic setting in the cyberpunk space station.
It's pretty dope.
But it's got a lot of like open-ended choices as far as how you want your character in the story to goes. And I don't mean that like in a generic, Ridge Racer. It's just, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
Racer! It's,
I almost did that right as soon as you said it.
Yeah, but no, Citizen Sleeper, it looks neat. The reviews overwhelmingly positive on Steam. It came out May 5th.
Oh, okay.
That's
a freshie.
$20. I'm looking forward to trying that when I have the money. Finally, because I like math and I like physics and I like punching trees, a guy's made 4D Minecraft. Not a fourth time dimension, an actual fourth physical dimension. He popped a video on Reddit explaining how it works. The Reddit was super succinct and actually very well done and gets across to you how you can have 4 different physical dimensions represented in 3 dimensions. And it's a little mind blowing.
It's me nauseous when I look at it.
Yeah, just wait until you actually see the gameplay. Do yourself a favor, go to YouTube and search up 4D Minecraft. The game is called 4D Miner. Watch his little 20-minute preview on the game, how he explains how you can rotate through the fourth dimension. So, for example, if you're not doing that, you can build a little house. But the problem is, like, once you start moving through the fourth dimension, your house is full of holes. So these four-dimensional spiders will just walk through the wall if you don't build your house in all four dimensions. How you can, like, see the entrance of a cave in 3 dimensions, and it just looks like a hole in the ground, and then you go to the bottom of it, and as you rotate through the fourth dimension, more of the cave appears. It's really, really neat. And it's just a cool concept.
It's neat, yeah.
There's a free demo out. Planned release date is November 2022. I think it's a single dev project, so as with all single dev projects, who knows how far this one's actually going to go.
Notch made Minecraft. I mean,
there are outliers. But it is worth at least experiencing because I think he does a really good job in that YouTube video explaining how a game like this would work. Also, in fun game news, Fall Guys is going free to play on June 21st. That's almost exactly a month away. PlayStation, Switch, Xbox, and the Epic Game Store. We're definitely going to be doing that probably here like soon on stream or something. Yeah, if we can all play that. I have yet to play Fall Guys. I really wanted to try.
I've only played a few matches, like a few of the mini games or whatever, and it was fun, dude. I played it one time, like for like an hour. It's great.
Yeah. I've seen enough of it to know like this would be a good game to binge for a little while and get some enjoyment out of. We also watched a trailer for Multiverses, which is as appropriate, very late, DC's Super Smash Brothers game. The trailer opens with Batman and Shaggy and Arya Stark and Jake and Garnet from...
and Bugs.
Yeah, all these weird characters fighting in essentially a Smash Brothers game. And the one thing that stuck out to me at the very end of the trailer, I only saw it with you guys, there was this weird green dog thing at like the character selection at the end. Turns out they made their own character for the game called Rain Dog.
Oh.
It's a green and white reindeer dog that hails from another planet. And it's like, what? You've got Batman and Superman and the Iron Giant, and you made
Rain Dog.
Rain Dog. Okay. Good on you, DC. But yeah, just some interesting little games coming out, some baffling news. I have some more, but we are running low on time, and I'll save that for next week.
Yeah. So
excellent.
Our first venture into the new format, and we already broke it, but
yeah.
I mean, that kind of works. That kind of fits.
It fits the narrative.
Yeah.
So, welcome to your first hour-long Video Game Tango podcast. Mm-hmm. We're going to dial it in, get things more succinct, or let us know. Maybe you like it an hour. Who gives a fuck? Let's do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is Video Game Tango for this week. And we're going to be back on Monday morning for some balcony time. For you, Twitch, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back shortly for the Balcony Time podcast. For everybody else, we love you.
We love you.
Love you.